Hi, I'm Gagan Singh, and I'll be conducting a workshop on sequential thinking. So, um, just write that up. Sequential thinking. Um, Sequential thinking is about uh, the way that I've been functioning in a sketchbook. Um, as I mentioned earlier, also in my introduction, it's something that I've been doing for the past maybe 5 years. It's something which developed over these years as I started to move out from my studio and started to draw in sitting in cafes or public spaces in city where I live, which is Delhi, and wherever I ended up traveling. And sketchbook was something which naturally came as a way to draw in. Sequential thinking and few of the things that I discovered as I worked on it. One was being able to drift off and being able to explore different line quality and also um, and also being able to come back to the series that I was working on. So I could have um, a lot of drawings on one theme and keep on working on its continuity, but at the same time sequential thinking allowed me to drift off, and drifting off was drifting off was happening through observation, one could say distractions, um, things which came in my memory and things that I was trained in, you know, habitual of. So observation, memory trained, habitual was like, let's say, if I'm sitting in a cafe and and I'm working on a particular theme, let's say, which is going to be part of this workshop, which is how to draw. Sorry, how to series, how to series. So I decide to work on how to do yoga, and I work with the sense of humor, and and things which you know intuitively come as thoughts. So let's say if I'm working on that, and in this cafe space that I'm working in, I always allow myself to drift off. Um, Through observation could be, let's say, which I get fascinated by is that just seeing the chairs in a cafe, or I happen to notice a tree outside. And this is something that I would want you to now maybe perhaps begin and initiate yourself in the as one of the exercises to work on. um, and I think I'm going to come back to this because the process of the way that I've been working, and I'm just stopping at the observation part, and the process that I've been working is so it has its own theoretical concept and as well as being practical. So I just want all of you to just begin in your sketchbook or loose sheets of paper, whatever that you might be having to draw with, and I just want you to scribble. Okay, so the basic scribble could be, you know, just this is me scribbling right now. Just scribbling. So either you decide to draw lines or the way that whatever that you're comfortable with, and my movement is different because I'm working on a large sheet of paper. So um, just spend the next 5, 10, 2 minutes, you know, whatever period that you want to work on, just scribble out, and you could take this as a warm up, or you could take this as something which is gonna be, like I mentioned, the training part. You know, something which becomes a habitual thing, and it will come later as you know uh, as you work in the sketchbook. You can follow. This has helped me a lot, and I keep bringing in this part towards the beginning, the middle, the end, or wherever I feel. And if you happen to have a pen or a pencil or more than one tool, so you can change that, and draw that. And let's say now that you know if you have spent these 5-10 minutes, so we move on. Once you've done that, what I would like you to do now is that we'll begin on the how to series. Okay, and I'll come back to this sheet of paper in a bit, so because that works better. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so how to. Okay, so as an example, I decide to say how to do yoga. And okay, so this is one page in my sketchbook, and I draw a figure. Okay, so there's a figure, and it says just set. So I often work with the line and text. So that's the way that I work. So most of my drawings are usually like that. Um, so let's say if this is one page, and then I would continue. So what I want all of you to do is that you um, you know you can create your own provocations. You can create your own trigger points. You can ask a friend, family member, whoever might be around. You could ask them, okay, what could be a trigger point for me to work with, and you could write them down. Just let's say how to walk, or how to fly, how to fall, or how do I use a telephone directory in the times of mobiles where there are no telephone directories anymore. So it's just whatever, or uh, how do I spend a day, or anything. How do I open my eyes? Anything. And this may, so you could spend another 5-10 minutes and just have these series come out. Yeah. So assuming that you have done that, and you've been able to spend that time to have a list of things that you want to do, or you can pick anything from here. So you can sorry, you can begin to draw in the sketchbook. Yeah. You can start the way that you want to start. And now we'll come back to the first page. So that I'm assuming that you you've done the scribbling, and we are moving on to the how to do series of thinking. In this one, as you work, as you begin your sketches, the idea of drawing in a sketchbook or working in sequential thinking is that fair enough that you have a provocation, you have a trigger point, but there are a lot of nuances which ideally start to open up, and that's the most exciting part for me. And they so in a sense, in the practice format, they were happening, and I could just have uh, bring in a certain theory around that, and that was really the the most exciting part. If you happen to be at a space which allows you viewing, you know uh, close definitely will be happening, around me something which is close is this or this, or there's a tube light there. uh, and if I'm in a room, if I look, I see the door, and if I open the door, or if I happen to have a window view, I might see the street quite far away, right? So this brings in C. I'll talk about that later. Um, right now, I just want to stick to uh, your your ideas, thoughts, expressions towards, let's say, whatever that you have chosen as the how to do series. Um, you can create your own plan of action. What will change the process in your sketchbook is that if you are drawing um, this in one location, you can also perhaps, I don't know how possible it is that you can take a break, uh, go somewhere, to the kitchen or outside. You can uh, change your space, come back and work, right? So this is one thing. As we draw, um, what I was able to explore was that how the mind is thinking, or the brain, or how thoughts are erupting or developing in the sketchbook, and how certain parameters, just like sound or noises, or in the cafe getting attracted to the chairs which are there, I would shift and start to draw the chairs. And what would happen is that my line quality would change. And once my line quality would change, I would draw them, I would get exhausted, uh, perhaps end up finishing my cup of coffee. And and then for me, I would go back to the how to series, or whatever that was, that thematic approach that I was doing, whatever, whether a person is working on a comic book, or you know um, or anything which is happening in that sequence, or we end up creating that sequence, because one thought allows us to have another thought. So let's say if I had this just set, then I could say, okay, the next one could be, uh, if this character is here, so I'd say, okay, you know so the other is look sideways. And in between, as I do that, I could just uh, remember a tree which I saw in the morning, or a car, or I was walking, so all of a sudden I could be just making that tree. This is definitely not that tree. This is coming from my memory of remembering, a Christmas tree, so it's just bringing that, or a pine cone tree, something comes in, then I remember, I remember something from here, a ball or something, and from here my thought goes to, so like that. So one, two, three, okay, and I want to come back to this. So these could be different pages in my sketchbook. So page one, page two, page three. In that page three, this happens. Or page four, page five, and then I go back to another one on the on the yoga series. So sequential thinking is about possibilities of this trajectory which happens in the way that we think, and the way that we think, the way that we might deal with something, we end up having the observation. So something's around you. Memory, like I made that tree, you know it's just it's a juxtaposition of whether I was thinking of a Christmas tree, or being in the mountains and remembering a pine tree. I don't know. As I talk, first it was a Christmas tree, then as I was talking, the image of the drawing comes in, and then the mountain trip comes in. So there's no sense of. It's very difficult to even say. I suppose it has a certain linearity to it. I could say that, but not sure. Um, and I would end up maybe even having on another page a conversation about trees. But I know that I want to go back to the yoga series. Memory and training was, who knows, we just want to scribble. We're doing that how to do yoga. We just want to scribble. We're doing that series, and then we just want to scribble on the page because that's something that we enjoyed. And training has another aspect also. As you draw, if you happen to be a drawer, or if you draw, if you don't draw, we draw, have drawn, doodled, scribbled, made the line in some way or the other, and and we encounter that. The way that I work now and the way that I was drawing 10 years back, I keep encountering these shifting moments. Um, and I realize that not as an assignment, but as the way that I just want to have that sequence in the book and be excited about how I was thinking from page 1 to page 100, whether in 1 hour or a couple of days that I worked on a sketchbook. It allowed me to see that. It allowed me to come back freely, without any restraint or any restriction. I could just open up in any direction. Um, so training is the immediate one, which was the scribble, because we did it, and earlier parts of the way that we've been trained, or the habitual that we have. So observation, memory, training, habitual. Um, and I mentioned about drifting off. Um, so you can make notes. You can have text marks that you want to explore as you go along. If you have an area or a specific thing that you want to explore, and let that happen. Make the notes. Let's say if I've done just sit, look sideways, this might continue into, let's say, 50 drawings, but all of a sudden I just want to explore from looking at this face. I just want to maybe perhaps so if I had drawn this as one figure, and this was about just sit, and I made this face. So I just want to maybe explore faces. So I extend from this, but at the same time I want to stick to this one, because for me there's a in sequential thinking, I often feel that this sense of maturity of that experience has to go on. And as it goes on, I often reach a certain peak, uh, whether we want to call it exhaustion, whether we want to call it the fact that this really worked. And beyond that, I don't see that there was a certain fall. Uh, I've exhausted as much from the parameters of the memory and observation, and also my endurance to sit and draw. I can't do beyond 45 minutes or 4 minutes or 10 minutes, or you know um, you could have how to one, and if you feel in one or two drawings you've exhausted, you could perhaps write more. And also, one thing which I want to come back about sequential thinking was uh, this thing about that I often, you know, I, um, I often uh, have seen that beyond the sketch, I end up making marks as to how the thought erupted and evolved. So this, yeah. So it could be that my page could be like this, the sketchbook page. I have something done here, something here, and something here, something here, something like that, right? And I've done something here. So what opens up for me is that I often would say, okay, this thought led to this one, and then I would draw these dots and say, okay, this sort of moved here, from here it moved here, and till here. I'll make these small notes that, okay, on this day, uh, there are 11 thoughts which came to me, and the 11th one is something that I could have never imagined. And it's only because I looked out in the window and I saw somebody, then I remembered that I need to get buy that medicine or something. Then I recalled something was troubling me, so I WhatsApp somebody or go on the my Instagram account, come back to the drawing, uh, order coffee, step out for 5 minutes. There's a change of temperature from the cafe to the outside space. Look around. I, I sort of left my book behind, but I'm looking out. I see the in the market. I see cars being driven in, and then I go back. Then I realize that these steps are essentials, and then they sort of uh, lead me to, let's say, this one, and I would sort of write that down. This is how the trajectory worked. So one page could be that, and then I move on. I feel that if I've done 6 8 in how to, and I then okay, I have reached that point of exhaustion, and a new thought erupted, a new drawing, and so I need to just move on. So I'm hoping that there are these deviations. You can deviate and also share, later, I'm sure, your deviation points, deviating points. Uh, just the slight change in a pen, reading some text, or, especially because we have the mobile or the net. So there's a constant referential, aspect which is happening. And the site that you choose, and to the sites that you move on to. Coming back to something which I mentioned earlier about seeing. So um, this is about uh, making this deliberate attempt of, you know, of sort of, perhaps deliberately experiencing this in between as a process, and it's coming from one of the readings of phenomenology of perception, Merleau-Ponty. Um, it's about, if you're here and you're drawing something that you see around you, something that you see a bit further, and something that you see at a great distance, maybe a kilometer, or maybe 500 meters away, or as far as you can see. Uh, and how you could train your gaze to not see here for those 5 minutes. And here there's no sound, maybe, perhaps, because if you see somebody walking far away, it's different, and something that you might see here. So it's just an exploration. You can choose to do this during sequential thinking as a trigger point, or you can choose not to do it. you could just choose to experience it. And if you're in your room, so maybe it might not allow that, because if you move your gaze and it stops at something, so it's close by. So, but if you're if you have that window view or something far away, you can, you can try that. And so I'll come back, and I'll make these sort of final notes. I'll make these final notes on how, you know, so I'll make these sort of final notes that which are the spaces of walking. So in sequential thinking, right now I'm assuming that you have the sketchbook, and you're able to mark the trajectory of thinking, and you're able to explore observation, the exercise of seeing, maybe the memory, and how to draw. How to do series. That is on route. So it's this is like the thematic thing that you're exploring, and then you have these the other area, and you have a particular site which you can change. You could have a break, move on, move out, come back, or if this is happening on a mobile or on an iPad, or if it's movable, you can change your sites and explore that. So one is a site of the sketchbook in itself, and then you have you have the site that which can be moved around with, and yeah, and of course the idea of drifting off. So where you you're inhabiting new spaces, things which ideally could be things that you would not show. So let's say if you're gonna show me or share the sketchbook, these are something which are omitted, omitted, censored, irrelevant. They're not relevant, uh, yet they come out. From a psychological point of view, you know uh, whether it's consciously one is drawing, so this is the unconscious mind, or whatever, like, but these can be termed as something, but they are an integral part of sequential thinking, because we created trigger points, and but we're unaware of these points which we drift off to. These are something that you can go on carrying, but at the same time, if one wants to experience a certain this peak or the saturation, this sort of a climax point in the sequential thinking, ideally one has to just balance out how much you want to push to each direction, because overall the idea is that you're sort of emptying yourself out, only so that you can come back to how to do series, so that you reach that peak of saturation, and or to extend the conversation further, or the meaning of peak is not the meaning of a peak that we might understand as the peak, so it can be just a flat peak. It's just, it is it is just point where you exhaust, okay, or one hasn't even exhausted, one gets bored, you just want to let go. So it doesn't matter, but I've used the word peak, there's so that the whole exercise is exhausted. Again, everything could be said, okay, I didn't exhaust, or I didn't do enough. So that is the point of letting go. So yeah, and I hope things are going good, depending on how much time that you want to spend on this. Um, you know, you can expand it, for half an hour, 1 hour, uh, and that should, ideally be a good point. And of course, then later you can always expand even further. And as this sort of practice evolves in working in the sketchbook, it in itself becomes an entire process just becomes a very self-generating method of being able to just draw, or being able to think. I think, think. And a drawing is just, it's just there. It's a tool which is there, but there's a certain, uh, free connectivity of that you sit, and there's a sketchbook, and the ideas flow. So yes, thank you, and I hope it worked out, and I look forward, if it works out, for me to be able to see what the participants were able to draw. Yes, thank you.